Welcome to Power in Words. This is more than just a destination on the internet. It is a quiet refuge for your mind, a dedicated space where we gather to find genuine inspiration, draw upon hidden reservoirs of strength, and cultivate profound positive energy. In a world that often feels relentlessly loud and overwhelming, we are here to offer you a gentle and necessary pause. This channel is a sanctuary of understanding and self-compassion, a place where you can take a deep breath and remember that you are not walking this challenging path alone. We believe in the profound impact of shared stories, the healing nature of vulnerable reflection, and the quiet dignity of simply being human together. You are safe here, you are seen, and your journey matters deeply to us. There is a quiet observation that possesses the power to entirely reshape how we experience our lives. The writer Anais Nin once noted that we do not see things as they are. We see them as we are. Take a long moment to let the immense weight of that truth settle into your consciousness. It is a concept that holds both immense responsibility and breathtaking liberation. The world you walk through every single day is not an objective reality that you are passively absorbing through your senses. Rather, it is a vast canvas upon which you are constantly painting your own internal state. Every silent fear you carry alongside the fragile hopes you barely dare to whisper become the very colors you use to paint the unfolding landscape of your life. We are not born with these distorted lenses. They are meticulously crafted over time through the complex experiences of our formative years. When we are young, we absorb them like sponges, taking the reactions of our caregivers and the pressures of society, forging them into a core belief system. If you experienced early emotional turbulence or rejection, your mind likely built a lens of profound vigilance to protect you from future pain. You may have learned to relentlessly scan your environment for hidden threats, sometimes internalizing those external letdowns as your own personal shortcomings. This was a necessary survival mechanism at the time. But as an adult, this outdated lens continues to dictate your reality long after the original threats have vanished into the past. When you wake up carrying the heavy burden of anxiety, the entire universe seems to contort itself into a series of imminent dangers. A delayed message from a friend is no longer just a busy morning on their end. It suddenly morphs into a devastating confirmation that you are unloved or entirely forgotten. A challenging new task at work ceases to be a normal professional hurdle and becomes an insurmountable mountain designed specifically to expose your incompetence. The environment itself has not actually changed. The friend is still just busy. The task is still just a task. But your internal lens has been tinted by fear, and so you look out and see a world that is inherently hostile. You are projecting the turbulent weather of your own soul onto the completely neutral sky of objective reality. This psychological phenomenon is perhaps the most profound realization any human being can arrive at, and it is a truth that the clinical world recognizes deeply. The way we process external stimuli is entirely dependent on our internal emotional scaffolding. If you have spent decades internalizing the harsh voices of others, building a core narrative that you are simply not enough, you will unconsciously seek out evidence to validate that painful belief. You will ignore 100 genuine compliments, brushing them off as polite lies, and fixate entirely on a single ambiguous glance from a stranger, interpreting it as undeniable proof of your inadequacy. Your brain, acting as a loyal but misguided servant, filters out the good to protect you from the unexpected shock of hope, leaving you entirely immersed in a reality of constant lack and perpetual rejection. We must bring into the light the silent, agonizing struggles that so many of us endure behind closed doors. The modern era has connected us technologically while simultaneously leaving us profoundly isolated on an emotional level. We spend hours scrolling through endless streams of carefully curated digital lives, looking at the smiling faces and the apparent effortless achievements of others. If our internal state is one of insecurity, this glowing digital window becomes an instrument of absolute self-destruction. We look at their highlights and feel the crushing weight of our own unseen struggles. We fall victim to the agonizing trap of self-comparison, convinced that everyone else possesses a secret manual for living that we somehow missed. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung taught that who looks outside dreams, but who looks inside awakes. Yet, we remain asleep, feeling like imposters in our own lives, perpetually terrified of the moment our perceived failures are exposed. This pervasive sense of not belonging fosters a deep loneliness, creating the tragic paradox of being completely surrounded by people but feeling entirely alone. We put up impenetrable walls because we perceive others as constantly judgmental. We craft elaborate masks to wear in public, ensuring no one can see the uncertain person hiding beneath the surface. But imagine the exhausting nature of living constantly on the defensive. You enter a room and immediately scan for rejection. Your posture is rigid, your words are carefully measured, and your heart is guarded. You do this because your internal reality is absolutely convinced that you must protect yourself from imminent emotional harm. What you do not realize in those moments of profound self-protection is that your defensive posture is actively communicating itself to the room. People unconsciously sense the invisible walls you have erected. They feel the distance you are projecting, and they respond by giving you the space you seem to be demanding. Your internal, desperate fear of isolation has thus manifested the exact isolation you were most terrified of experiencing. You saw a hostile room, you acted accordingly, and the room subsequently became cold and distant. It is a tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy born entirely from a distorted internal lens. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard powerfully reminded us that to cheat oneself out of love is the most terrible deception, an eternal loss for which there is no reparation. When we look at the world through a lens of severe self-criticism, we are actively cheating ourselves out of the profound connection that is waiting for us. This is precisely where the profound, life-altering power of self-awareness begins to change the entire trajectory of your existence. Healing does not mean magically erasing your past, nor does it mean instantly silencing all your persistent doubts. Healing begins in the quiet, delicate space where you finally realize that the lens even exists. It is the miraculous moment you step back from your own immediate emotional reactions and begin to observe them with a gentle, non-judgmental curiosity. You start to ask yourself essential questions. Why did that minor comment upset me deeply? Am I reacting to what was actually said right now? Or am I reacting to a painful memory from 10 years ago that this comment accidentally brushed against? This simple process of questioning your own perceptions is the dawn of emotional freedom. You realize that you are not your intrusive thoughts. You are the vast sky behind those passing clouds. Think about the people who inspire you the most, the individuals who radiate a profound sense of peace, unshakable grounding, and deep resilience. They have not lived pristine lives free of tragedy, heartbreak, or monumental failure. What separates them is not a miraculous lack of adversity, but a highly conscious choice regarding exactly how they process that adversity. They have done the grueling, necessary work of cleaning their internal lenses. When they encounter a devastating setback, they do not automatically see a confirmation of their own inherent unworthiness. They see a complex puzzle to be solved, a vital lesson to be integrated, or a necessary detour on a much longer journey. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the darkest depths of the Holocaust, offered humanity a quiet, immortal truth. He taught that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose. And in that choice, we find our freedom. That profound freedom belongs to you right now, sitting exactly where you are. It is not something you have to earn through perfection, nor is it something you must purchase. It is your inherent birthright as a human being. The power to choose your perception is the ultimate tool of emotional survival and resilience. If you are currently standing in a very dark place, feeling completely overwhelmed by the shadows of your circumstances, I want you to know with absolute certainty that your feelings are entirely valid. The pain is real, the exhaustion is deep, but the overarching narrative you are attaching to that pain is entirely within your control. You can look at a barren tree in winter and mourn the tragic end of its life, or you can look at those exact same bare branches and recognize the silent, necessary rest before a new spring. The tree itself remains unchanged. It is only the season of your perspective that shifts. To change what you see in the world, you must courageously commit to changing how you look at yourself. This requires an immense, almost radical amount of self-compassion. We are so often our own harshest, most unforgiving critics, wielding a level of cruelty against ourselves that we would never dream of directing at a passing stranger, let alone a dear friend. If someone you loved came to you expressing deep feelings of worthlessness and despair, you would not agree with them and validate their self-hatred. You would immediately wrap them in warmth, fervently remind them of their incredible strengths, and hold a safe space for their pain. You must consciously begin to cultivate that exact same voice of friendship within the private theater of your own mind. You must become a sanctuary for yourself. When the internal voice becomes kind, the external world miraculously begins to soften its hard edges. It is vital to understand that this journey of inner transformation is never a perfectly linear path of constant upward momentum. There will inevitably be difficult days when the old, familiar fears return with a vengeance. There will be dark moments when the lens fogs up entirely again, when the ghosts of the imposter phenomenon whisper that you are fooling everyone, and when the deep ache of loneliness tries to convince you that you are fundamentally unlovable. This is absolutely not a sign that you have failed or that your progress was an illusion. This is simply the beautifully flawed human experience playing itself out. The goal of this journey is never flawless perfection. The goal is recovery time. It is entirely about how quickly you can recognize the distortion, take a deep breath, and gently, patiently wipe the lens clean once more. Consider the quiet beauty of a world perceived through a lens of gratitude. When you finally accept that you are worthy of love, you begin to notice the subtle ways life has always been offering it to you. You feel it in the simple warmth of the morning sun on your skin, in the unexpected smile of a passerby, and in the quiet comfort of a solitary evening. You realize that joy is not a final destination you magically arrive at after you have flawlessly achieved all your goals. Joy is a manner of traveling through the present moment. The writer Henry Stanley Haskins expressed this monumental truth beautifully when he noted that what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. You hold within you right now an entire unexplored universe of potential, a deep reservoir of psychological strength that is far more powerful than your deepest, most terrifying fears. The time has finally come to stop apologizing for your mere existence and start taking full ownership of your perception. You are the sole author of your own meaning. You have the ultimate authority to decide that your past struggles, no matter how deeply they wounded you, do not get to dictate your ending. You can choose to extract strength from those shattered pieces, turning what was once a source of pain into the very foundation of your resilience. You have the absolute power to decide that your current challenges are not permanent roadblocks, but the exact emotional resistance required to build your spiritual muscles. By boldly choosing to see yourself with unwavering compassion, you grant yourself the ultimate permission to step fully and completely into the bright light of your own extraordinary life. The entire world is patiently waiting for you to see it clearly, not through the thick smog of your inherited insecurities, but through the brilliant, piercing clarity of your own realized worth. Transform the way you look at yourself, and you will inevitably transform the entire world you inhabit. Your reality is simply a reflection of the grace you are willing to give yourself. If this message brought you a sense of peace today, please consider subscribing to Power in Words and share this with someone who might need a gentle reminder of their own strength. Let's continue this beautiful journey of healing together as friends.